it's all within us. Like that's where we will find all of the happiness and all of the love and the fulfillment that we've ever wanted, but it takes wanting to get there to actually get there, I guess. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope that everyone is doing well and feeling happy and good. Today I wanted to talk about finding healthy ways to recharge in life. So I guess kind of the process of finding more and more happiness and fulfillment and love and contentment from the inside and from healthy external things in life, and not only having it be based on things such as outside circumstances or outside validation, and then also the freedom that comes from that, because there is a lot of it. So yeah, that's the topic for today. Where do we start? I think that the most important love that we can learn how to access is the one that comes from within us, and it has nothing to do with any outside circumstances or people, because even if everything in our life is perfect, which is very difficult to achieve, but let's say even if that would be the case, if we don't feel good on the inside, we're not going to feel good. And so that's why I really do believe that an internal love is the most important thing to learn how to cultivate for a happy life. But I don't think there is anything wrong with using external things in life to feel good and to recharge and relying on that in a sense, because truly none of us would be happy if we were locked in a dark room for the rest of our lives, never experiencing anything, never seeing anything, just locked in that room, even if we are entirely happy from the inside, because life is here to experience it. And I think it would be very weird to not see that as part of life, that we want to have experiences and situations and people and goals that make us feel good. But I think it's really, really important to be aware what kind of external things we use to feel good, where those desires come from, and then also how healthy and especially how sustainable they really are. I was recently having a conversation with someone about this, and we kind of came up with this very interesting analogy that I think explains pretty well what I'm trying to express. And so let me just share that, and then we kind of see where we go from there. So when you have a device at home and you want to charge that, you need to charge that, you kind of have two options. Either you go to the store and you buy a disposable battery, or you start having solar panels at home and you generate your energy through that. And of course, there are also other options, but for this analogy, we just need these two. And I think we as humans are kind of wired in a similar way, meaning we all need electricity. We all need to do things that make us feel good and that charge us. And I feel same as a device, we kind of have two options. Either we go for disposable batteries, or we start building and having solar panels. And if that analogy doesn't make sense right now, give me a second to explain, because I'm getting somewhere with this. Personally, I have realized even more that some of these things that we often use to find happiness and fulfillment, such as outside validation or working or achieving or buying things or just getting love and validation from the outside, when we base our happiness and our fulfillment on these things, it's really like buying disposable batteries from the store, because the energy will run out eventually, and then we need to go to some kind of outside source, such as a store, to buy a new battery. But what if a crisis hits, or that day, for some reason, the store doesn't have any disposable batteries available? then we're fucked and we have no way to we have no way to charge whatever we need to charge by ourselves. It makes us very dependent. But when we find things that can be used as solar panels to recharge, then that is a much more healthy and sustainable way. So currently, for me in my life, I feel like there are a few things that I can use as solar panels, meaning I feel they are healthy, external things that I can use in life to feel good and to recharge. And those always change depending on where I'm at in life or where I'm like actually physically. But I think there are always things that we can use for that. So one of those things for me is the ocean or just water or even a lake, like doesn't even matter. Anything that has to do with being in the water. So swimming in the ocean, diving, snorkeling, free diving, scuba diving, like doesn't matter. Anything that's always been something that makes me feel really good and really happy, and it really recharges me. Like I could do that forever, but I don't feel it's based on something external in an unhealthy way necessarily, because when I am 30-40 meters underwater, it's just me and the ocean and nature and the person I'm diving with. But other than that, it's just me in nature feeling good. And that feeling good comes from the inside and it's connected to the outside, but it feels really, really healthy. I was recently on a dive trip where for 9 days straight, I was on a boat, just basically scuba diving all day, every day. It feels like I was underwater for 9 days, but we also learned how to free dive. And so that made me realize again how much I love being in the water. And so that's why I'm trying to implement that more in my life again as a solar panel. But of course, water, for example, is not always something that is accessible. And so I think it's really important to have many different kinds of solar panels, a lot of different ones that we feel we can use and that work for us depending on where we're at in life or where we are, but just having a lot of different ones that can work and that we can use. So some other things that I personally feel I can use as solar panels are things such as let me think, meditation. That's something that has always worked for me, or music, like listening to music. That's something that I feel I can use to feel good, or just being with my family and people I love and friends, not because they give me validation, but just because I really love them and I really love being with them. Or also, well, sun. When we're talking about solar panels, I think being in the sun always makes me feel really good. Other than that, creativity, not necessarily creating things that, like creating a video that someone would see and that give me a response to, but just creating for myself and just for the sake of creating. So I recently went to a course where we learned how to tie-dye a t-shirt, but using natural colors made from food. And that was a really amazing experience, but I felt it was really, really healthy. But we had a lot of fun because in that moment, I was not creating something to show it to someone or to get a response or anything like that. I was just creating because I wanted to create and I was having fun doing that. And so, yeah, another thing that I can think of right now is nature. Of course, being in nature is always a great thing to use as a solar panel. And then things that I would put in the category of disposable batteries, meaning they do generate energy, but it's just not a very sustainable way to go about it, are things such as maybe social media. So likes, comments, any response that we are looking for there, or just validation from the outside in general. Could be like alcohol or partying, or maybe dating possibly, like looking for a response there, or looks, or I don't know, can be lots of different things, but I think the way we can distinguish whether something falls into the category of a disposable battery or a solar panel is there an endless supply of it? And are we connected to a store where we would possibly have to buy the new batteries? So, for example, when you rely on likes on your photo, you have no control over that. Like, you might wake up one day and you might have 0 likes, or you might have 1,000 likes. Like, you can't control that. Or when you base it on dating, like, you can't control how many, like, possibly you're on a dating app, you can't control how many people swiped left or right. I don't know which side it is, but how many people swiped on your dating profile if you're looking to feel good through that. Or you can't control if your friends want to go out with you tonight and party and drink, or if there's no party happening. Like, those are things that are connected to some kind of an outside source where we need to go to get that next hit. Meanwhile, a solar panel does not need anyone. A solar panel is just happy and fully functioning and thriving on its own. There is an endless supply of sun. You will never run out of that, and using sun does not make you dependent on anyone, because the sun will come up every morning. And same goes for the solar panels. There's an endless supply of creativity to access. There is an endless supply of love, of actual sun, of water for me to swim in, of nature, of movement. There is an endless supply of it, and you don't need anyone other than yourself to go ahead and access that. I'm not saying that we should all just read and dance and be creative and walk around in nature for the rest of our lives and never achieve anything else. For me personally, that would also be a very boring life to live. I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to achieve and see what it would feel like to achieve whatever success represents for us, whether that be, you want to have 1 million, I don't know, TikTok followers, or you want to have X amount of money, or you want to have this house. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. I think it's just important to not charge there, because if you have a house and it's fully running on solar panels, there's nothing wrong with going out and buying a disposable battery just because you want to, or because there's something about it that excites you. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to achieve those things and wanting to see what that would feel like. I think, as I said, it's just important to not charge there, because outside circumstances, they will always have ups and downs that are out of our control. And so when we base our happiness on that, it makes us very, very dependent on the outside. Meanwhile, when you start cultivating more happiness from solar panels and you become more of your own source of happiness and independent in that, then you can still go out and try those things, but then it becomes an experience and something that you just go into because you want to. But when something happens there, it's not your reason for being okay or not okay, because you have solar panels to rely on. And so that's more what I mean. Like, especially when you have solar panels to rely on, then you can go out in life and you can want to experience whatever you want to experience, but you always have solar panels to fall back on. That should be the base, I think, that we work from, because then we are free and self-sustainable. The thing is, and I think this is also why we often struggle with this so much, it is easier in a way to go for disposable batteries than for solar panels. And there are a lot of valid reasons that speak for that, because let's give an example. You're having a really shitty day. You're having a really shitty day and something happened, or your thoughts are weighing you down or something, and you go for a disposable battery, meaning, let's say you go and decide to spend lots of money and buy lots of new things, or you post something crazy on social media and you want all of the reactions and love and whatever from that. the probability is high that whatever response you get from that is big enough and loud enough to cover up whatever you are feeling in that moment. And so it will kind of numb you for long enough that you can enjoy that experience fully. Meanwhile, when we go for solar panels more, they don't cover things up. On the contrary, they can even bring out whatever is already there even more. So let's say again, you're having a really shitty day, whatever, and then you decide to go for a solar panel. So for example, you decide to go for a hike for 4 hours in nature, and the probability is high that that's going to be a beautiful experience. But in that moment, you cannot run away from yourself. You are faced with whatever it is that you are feeling. I think especially if we are still used to always distracting ourselves, and that's especially hard nowadays with social media and just instant distraction and instant gratification being accessible so easily and so many things always coming our way. It's really tough to get used to solar panels, because with those solar panels you start seeing things for what they are: your emotions, your thoughts, how you're feeling, how much you might still have been distracting yourself. But I think once we move through that discomfort, on the other side is where freedom is, because it's all within us. Like that's where we will find all of the happiness and all of the love and the fulfillment that we've ever wanted. But it takes wanting to get there to actually get there, I guess. Going for disposable batteries is also kind of a loop that you go into, and you never really get out of it because you are continuously numbing yourself. And so there is no evolvement and no growth in that, because let's say you went shopping for that day and you spend a lot of money, the probability is high after that shopping trip you might feel better very shortly, but you will probably not have had any new realizations or any new ideas as to why you might be feeling what you're feeling and how you can move through that. Meanwhile, when you go on that hike for 4 hours, it might be more uncomfortable. 100% will be more uncomfortable than going for the shopping. But at the end of that hike, you will have some kind of a new realization and a new thought, and you will be at a place that is different than when you started. There will be something that you will have learned or realized or evolved through. So the hike is maybe a little bit more uncomfortable, but it is also more rewarding, because I think that's what life is about. Life is about growing and evolving and having new realizations and changing and learning new things about yourself. And so I think the more we go for the solar panels, the more we support that process. Meanwhile, the disposable batteries also just continuously numb us, and they might make us feel better, but they really stagnate. And if it's done too much, can even like entirely crush the process of evolvement and growth, I think. The more I worked on self-love and kind of accessing a love from within, and then also kind of moving through that discomfort of sitting with yourself and facing what you're feeling, the more I also realized that when I don't have fear of sitting with myself, then actually the disposable batteries become less and less interesting, and the solar panels is where I actually also have more fun. So it is more rewarding, less comfortable, but also actually more fun. Like now, if I would have to choose, I would prefer to go diving today rather than shopping the whole day, because it's not so uncomfortable for me anymore. And that means it's also become much more fun. Like I would actually prefer to do that. And so I think it's really a process, because some days I feel like that, some days I don't feel like that. I think I'm really still on that journey, and maybe that journey will never end, and it's something that we will always learn. But I think just being aware of these things and reminding myself of these things has been really, really important for me. And I think it's a beautiful process to go on and to see the rewards and the happiness that comes from that, and especially the freedom. So that is all that I wanted to share for today. Thank you so much. I'm really so grateful for anyone who enjoys listening to these. I personally really love having these conversations, and so it is a lot of fun for me. And yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you or talk to you in my next episode. Bye.